All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Adam, and I'll be your moderator. Carrie Webber is back with us for another webinar, this time discussing how to increase your case acceptance through a healthy patient practice partnership. Carrie is the Chief Communications Officer and co-owner of Jameson Dental Coaching and Dental Marketing. Sorry, owner. I made that mistake last time too. At any point during the webinar, we certainly encourage your participation. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A section of your control panel, and we'll answer them live at the end of the webinar. Henry Schein is not offering CE credit for viewing or attending this presentation live or on demand. And this webinar is sponsored by Henry Schein's Dental Business Institute, as well as Jameson Dental. With that, I will throw it to Carrie.
Thank you, Adam. And actually, you were correct. So no need to apologize. I do own Jameson with my husband, Jess Weber. So you were more correct than you were thinking you were. So thank you so much for the introduction. And thanks to all of you for joining me once again this evening. I'd love to hear where you're from. If you have access to the chat, please let Adam and I know where are you coming from this evening as you join us. I'm right here right in the middle of America. I am in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, and we are enjoying some of our nice, hot summer weather. Amanda in Tucson, Arizona, and Virginia. So I bet you all are having some great summer temps, I'm sure. Washington, D.C., thank you so much for joining us from our great capital. And Tucson, I'm sure you're probably like, don't even tell me about heat from Oklahoma. We've got you beat there. And so does Houston. Houston, you've got some good summer weather happening right now, I'm sure as well. So thanks to all of you that are chiming in and joining us. I'm so thrilled that you're with me. I'm going to do my best to track. Oh, now someone's coming to us from Southern California, and that I'm going to have a little bit of envy for because some good Southern California weather sounds good to me right now. I'll be trying to keep an eye on the chat. But please know that Adam will also be tracking that with me. If you have questions, we'll make sure to make time for those at the end of our session today. But count on me to do my best to stay in touch with you through the chat if and when I can. So thank you all so much for being with me, because this evening we're going to be talking about what is a topic that is often covered for us in the dental profession, and that is our case acceptance, our case presentation processes and skills, and that continuous desire to improve and be better as we are faced with obstacles day in and day out of how do we help our patients say yes to the treatment they want or need more successfully. So I'm sure you have questions, or you're seeking some solutions, or perhaps some new ideas on how to be better. And my hope is that we can have some thought-provoking conversation this evening on the topic of case acceptance, getting in the mindset of how can we put ourselves in the shoes of our patients, and how can we deliver our care in a more profound and intentional way to help our patients move forward with what they want or need. So it's not only a mindset that we have to become more aware of, but it's also our skill sets. So how can we improve our skill sets in the work that we do, the conversations we have, the processes we may have in place that helps lead a patient through their experience with us, that builds what could ultimately be the pathway to them saying yes to the very best for them. So let's begin. When we think in the mindset, not only for you as a team, but we start to think in the mindset of our patients, it's important to know what are the obstacles that are often getting in the way of them accessing the care they want or need. The ADA and their Health Policy Institute does surveys externally to the consumer on a regular basis. Every few years, they do a survey to patients to determine what it is that either causes them to delay treatment or delay going to the dentist in general. And every year, these three items come up in the top 4 or 5. Cost is number one. I'm sure that's no surprise to any of you that cost is number one. Followed closely by fear, the fear of the dentistry itself, as well as convenience, or in other words, time. So I'm wondering, as you start to think about your patients, and those patients perhaps in the not so distant past that have not been able to move forward or have chosen to tell you, I'll think about it, and still have not proceeded with diagnosed treatment, are these some of the reasons that may be preventing them from saying yes and moving forward with that care? Or are these some of the reasons that our patients are falling through the cracks in our practice altogether? Other issues that go further down the list are no perceived need, or no need is what it says. And in my mind, I feel like it's more than likely no perceived need. Would you agree? Because they may not see the need for the care or for staying active in the practice. And then not too farther down the list is having a bad experience in the past, a bad dental experience that really burns them altogether and prevents them from returning. More than likely, the fear factor plays a role in that as well. So it's important for us to know the why behind the behaviors that may be preventing our patients from staying active in our practices or moving forward with the treatment we're recommending. At Jameson, we take that concept and we build it around what we consider the 4 pillars to a healthy patient practice partnership. If a patient is walking out the door not saying yes to treatment they've said they wanted, or that we've identified that they truly need, then more than likely we as a team in a practice have missed the mark on one or more of these areas. They don't trust the diagnosis, or they don't trust us. They don't see a need for the treatment. We haven't really helped them to see the why behind the what. There's not a sense of urgency. There's no hurry for it. I've got other things going on. I'm going to do this instead. So they don't feel that sense of urgency for the care, or they don't see the value in the care itself, or they don't see a value in staying active in your practice. So what we want to do is build these pillars of trust, of need, of urgency, and of that sense of value that will help us move forward. So what are you doing in your practice to help build these pillars of trust, need, urgency, and value to help you and your patients have a really healthy partnership that involves them in their journey of overall dental health? This is something that I want us to all remember as you think about the purpose that you have in why you do what you do. We're all in dentistry because we have a sense of purpose. More than likely, you were attracted to dentistry because you like to help people. You want to help people be healed and be healthy. You may love the artistry of dentistry. You may love the relationship piece of dentistry. But remember, if a patient's walking out your doors, not saying yes to treatment they want or need, they lose and we lose. So when we're centered behind the why behind the what, and also remember, let's go back to these pillars. You internally as a team also have to believe in these things with your practice. You have to trust each other and trust the care. You have to see the need for what you're bringing to the table. You have to feel that sense of urgency for your patients, of the work that you're doing. And the things that you're doing, just like this evening, taking time after a busy day to be with me, to work on your skills and case presentation, you see a need and a sense of urgency to be better and be better. And we, as a team, have to see and believe in the value of the care that you provide your patients. If we don't see the value in it, how will we ever help our patients see the value in getting healthy, or getting that type of care, or getting that cosmetic work that they've wanted for so long but seem to continue to delay? Whatever it is that you're wanting to do more of, we as a team have to have these pillars in place for ourselves, and then we have to do the good work in our efforts in building relationship with our patients to build those pillars with them as well. One of my favorite books, The 5 Gears by Jeremy Kubicek and Steve Cockram, asks the question in various aspects of our lives, but we're going to talk specifically about in our work. Where in our patient's experiences with us, where in that overall patient appointment, in our new patient experience, in our treatment consultations, where are we working intentionally and where are we working accidentally? For example, if we are continuously just trying to throw together a treatment plan as fast as possible, and we didn't really do a lot of work thinking through it, we didn't meet with the treatment coordinator, explain what we were presenting doctors, and then we go and we present it and we fire hose the patient with all the things that we know they need and don't really involve them in the conversation. And then we throw them up to the front desk to talk to the business team about the financial aspect of the care. And then we wonder whatever happened to Mrs. Jones 3 months later. If that feels like it might have something familiar to an experience you've had in your practice, that was an accidental consultation. We can do better. When we start to think intentionally, what is the patient's experience? What's the overall patient appointment? What does an overall patient experience look like? What does an ideal consultative experience look like? Does everyone on the team know what that process and what that path is for a patient and understands their role in that process and are on board for that and working towards a continuous improvement in their skills to deliver their part in that process? That's when the magic happens, because we're intentionally working to build relationship, partnering with that patient for their ultimate and ideal care. So let's talk about your ideal patient. When you think about your ideal patients in your practice, share with me in the chat, if you would, please. What are some areas, what are some behaviors when you think about your ideal patients in your practice? Tell me in the chat, what are behaviors that they have that make them so? So when you think about ideal patient, who are the names that come to mind? And what is it about them that make you love it when they're on the schedule or makes you think of them in a very fond way? Tell me in the chat some of the things that may be the behaviors that these patients have. They're honest about their expectations. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. They're open and they're trusting. They trust you, just like we talked about in those pillars. Terrific. Thank you, Amanda. What else? Sometimes they're the ones that they're happy to be there. They're kind to you, right? Those are some of the things I hear a lot in groups that I'm speaking to. And for us at Jameson, here are some of the things, the real behaviors behind what makes an ideal patient. They schedule and keep their appointments. They say yes to treatment presented. They complete the treatment. They pay for the treatment, and they stay active in the practice. And then at the end, the most beautiful cherry on top, they refer. So how does this happen? This happens when we have an intentional patient experience that is elevated care through not only how we walk and guide and escort a patient through their experience, but how we communicate to them, how we present to them. It all is like a puzzle piece that adds to each other and brings together the best possible experience for your patients. A study by Deloitte Research, and this is in the hospital realm, but I believe wholeheartedly as I read this study and the results that they found, that this goes and it fits perfectly in the dental realm. So listen to what these results said. The study was on the value of patient experience. Hospitals with better patient reported experience, so the patients are reporting and feeding back how they would rank their experience. The hospitals with better reported experiences perform better financially. The higher the patient experience ratings are, the higher the profitability for those hospitals. Hospitals with better experience levels earn disproportionately more than they spend compared to those with lower ratings. And here's the piece I really want to drive home for you all in terms of the results of this study, because I'm sure there are some doctors on this presentation, but I'm sure there's also some team members. So team and doctors, I'm talking to you guys. A highly engaged staff likely boosts patient experience, translating into better performance. Patient experience scores pertaining to interactions with nurses in the Deloitte study have the strongest association with hospital financial outcomes. Okay, so what does this mean for you? That means team, each member of your team can make or break the patient relationship. This does not fall on one person. And in fact, those of you that are a part of a high performing team that really engages with the patients, you're always working on your verbal skills. You're really trying to create a wow experience, delivering everything that's expected plus a little bit more. More than likely, all of that effort in creating exceptional care and creating relationship with your patients is resulting in better practice numbers and results. We always talk about if we focus on the experience and we focus on what's best for the patient and how to deliver something exceptional, all of the goals and the results will follow. And you will create more and more ideal patients in your practice and start to attract the right types of patients for your practice because the reputation will get out. I'm curious from all of you, who has a great high performing team? Tell me about it. Tell me what makes your team special. Share with me in the chat. So what they found in this research was that patients want high touch. They want a highly engaged team working with them. They want high quality. So they want that technology. They want a high quality feeling experience. And they want it to be highly interactive. They want you talking with them. They want you participating with them. High touch, high quality, highly interactive. So at Jameson, we consider 6 steps to effective case presentation. And when you think about this from partnering with your patients, developing those 4 pillars of trust, need, urgency, and value, think about this. From the moment a patient calls your practice and starts to explore scheduling an appointment with you, we need to be building that relationship. When they schedule the appointment, it doesn't stop there. We're sending them information. We're continuously building that trust, building up their perception of value through every touch point, from the website to your emails to the patient information that you're sending out for them to complete. All of those things can either build value or break down value. When they're with us in the practice and we're starting to talk about their care, we want to be establishing the need through every interaction. Again, through our communication skills and the tools that we use and the way that we flow them through their process. We want to be educating and motivating. What tools, what skills, what time are you investing in education and motivation for your patients? We want to get comfortable with asking for the commitment in a very intentional way. We want to be really good at making those financial arrangements with them so that everything is clear. What's expected is what we deliver. And we want to be good at and be ready to schedule those appointments. So this sounds very simple, but you and I both know it's not. This is not simple. What is within this are the steps and that process that we're talking about. All the tools and skills that we have to continuously be working on to be better are in each and every one of these steps. But this is the path to case acceptance. We want to be building trust, value, need, urgency, the understanding and patient loyalty. And that all happens with how you're communicating intentionally with your patients. Are you good communicators? Tell me, do you work on this as a team? Do you role play? Do you practice? Do you talk about the obstacles that you're running into and work as a team on those verbal skills? I love this that was shared, that you have an excellent patient experience coordinator and you continuously work on your verbal skills. Terrific, Tina. You have excellent doctors and high-tech equipment. You try to educate them on how dentistry is related to other health issues. I love that, Tina. Thank you for sharing. That's a perfect example of what we're talking about. They are intentionally working that into their day. They're not just having a conversation here and there, distracted and just trying to make it happen and shove people through because they know that the experience is going to build a lasting relationship of trust and acceptance from those patients. Getting good at overcoming objections. This is a big one for people. what I want you to start to think about when we talked about mindset and skill set, I want you to get in the mindset that objections are not a bad thing, to not be afraid of objections. Listen, people, I talk to people, to doctors every single week, several times a week. I talk to doctors that are exploring ways to work with Jameson and so on. If I were afraid of objections, I would be terrible at this. But for me, I welcome them because I want them to feel safe and comfortable to ask me the things that they're concerned about because it's a gift. If they're talking to me, if your patients are asking questions or sharing with you what their objections are, that means we have an opportunity to work through those as a partnership together to overcome those, just like this gentleman jumping the hurdle, to overcome those objections and help find a way forward for our patients. If they say nothing and they walk out the door, that's when I'm afraid that I completely bombed, because I'm afraid that they closed off and they put the wall up and I didn't get through. But if we get objections, we can overcome them. We take the time. We have to work on taking the sacred time necessary to have the right types of conversations, to ask the right types of questions, to really pull out of our patients what their goals, and as we said earlier, what their expectations are. You said that a great thing about an ideal patient is they're very clear with you about what their expectations are. So we need to start asking the right questions to get that kind of information. We got to work on becoming great listeners. This one's hard for people because we spend a lot of time when we say we're listening, we're really working up our response in our head of how we're going to respond. Well, that's not listening. That's like playing tennis. That's just vomiting words back and forth to each other. So we had to start working on the discipline of listening, leaning in, focusing, making eye contact, really honing in our attention to hear what that patient is saying, and then being able to use what we call active listening, feeding back to the patient what we believe we heard them to say, to make sure that what message was sent is message received and that we continue to be on the same page. And then working on our verbal skills. My father, Dr. John Jameson, retired dentist, and he would tell you that some of the best work he did for the success of his practice and increasing case acceptance was working as a team on the mastery of verbal skills. So let's dive into this a little bit and let's talk about what I consider to be some game changers as you start to partner with your patients more intentionally. Here are some tools and here are some skills that if you focus in on one, at least one of them, if you find just one, you're going to be seeing an improvement. If you find more than one, good gosh, you're going to be skyrocketing if you find areas that you can refine. Understanding people, emotional intelligence. How many of you have ever done any kind of behavioral personality style type of exercise? We at Jameson love DISC. And the reason I'm showing you this is we as human beings all have tendencies and we lean more toward specific behavioral types. Now you can change over time. I've changed over time. Maturity, owning businesses, having children, all of these things can change your personality styles, but we're all of these are in us. Some of them are more dominant than others. So your patients also are bringing these behavioral styles to how they're receiving information from you, how they're processing information and making decisions. So the more engaged we are in understanding and having a heightened awareness, reading the room, so to speak, of our patients' behavioral styles and how to best communicate to them, the more effective and more connective our conversations will be. The D's and the I's are your more outgoing, probably more assertive and aggressive, to the point patients. Your I's are your social butterflies. Your D's are the give me 3 bullets and get me out of here kind of, they want to get to the point quickly. Your C's and S's are your more introverted patients. They may need more details. They may be slow to change. They may be overwhelmed by the loud, gregarious people. They may need us to be in a more calmer environment. They're going to need more information. And so those are the people that we need to be aware of, especially if you're like me. I'm a DI, good gosh. So I need to make sure and be aware when I'm with a more of the conscientious type, a C, that I need to bring out more of the detail. I need to probably level my energy down a little bit so that I don't overwhelm them just by my presence and my gregarious nature. So this is something you can take these. This is Everything Disc. It's a Wiley brand, and you can go and you can purchase these personality assessments, and you can take them as a team, learn more about each other as a team, but also learn more for yourself and how you interact and communicate with your patients based upon how they more than likely receive information the best. Another great game changer, I'm flying through these people, so I hope you're keeping up with me, is a smile evaluation. Do any of you utilize a tool like this in your new patient packets or your emails that you send out with new patient information? Or do you have them complete this when they come into your practice? Here is an example of one that we've created. If you'd like to have a sample of this, you can email me at cweber@jmsn.com, and I would be happy to send you a copy of this. Let me go ahead and just put my email in the chat while we visit right now, and then you'll have that for access if you would like to receive this. These are open-ended questions. They're door openers, basically. They're going to peel the layer of the onion of your patients, meaning you're going to ask them questions that perhaps they've never really considered before. So depending on what type of dentistry you want to be doing more of, or you want your practice to be known for, you can start asking questions to your patients that can start to get them thinking about their smile in a different way. So if someone completed this smile evaluation, this example that I have here for you, if they said something in the, if you could change anything about your smile, what would you change? If they put something there, then here's where it goes from intentional or accidental. I am intentionally going to ask them to tell me more about their answer in their appointment so that I can find out from them if that is something they would like to learn more of and for us to consider as we treatment plan for them. So this is a great opportunity to start helping your patients think about their smile a little more longer term, or even in a different way, the smile evaluation. Telephone skills is a game changer when you're building your relationships with your patients from the beginning. Remember, every interaction with your patients is either building value or breaking down value. Horst Schulze of the Ritz-Carlton will tell you that in the studies that they've made, that the relationship begins with the first phone call. And he would tell you that in the Ritz, when they did studies on customer service, that they found that customers, their guests, were setting their perception of their experience and how they were going to enjoy their stay and whether they were even going to return within the first 5 to 8 seconds of the first interaction they had with the first member of the Ritz-Carlton team. So, whoa, if that doesn't tell us dental professionals that the telephone really does make a difference, if you don't work on anything else, what I would encourage you to do is to go back to your practice and listen. Call the front, let your team answer, role play a whole conversation, or even if you have the tools where you can listen to recordings of your conversations, some patient communication tools have this. I encourage you to work on this. And if you are the business team, I understand there are a lot of obstacles in your day and the busyness of your day that make the telephone challenging for you. So I don't expect miracles overnight. And I know that this may be overwhelming for you, but I want to encourage you that every little bit of work that you do, from how you answer the telephone to how you work through some of those challenging questions that you may find yourself faced with on a regular basis, role playing and practicing with your team, and creating tools, a patient communication form where you're making sure you're getting all the information you need, or even a little cheat sheet of questions that you want to make sure you're asking. Working to stay in control of that call and elevating your communication skills can make a huge difference. Remember, there's no visual in those conversations. So your tone of voice and the words you say and the clarity of your words is going to make a big difference. So let's get to work on really finding tools and resources to help you improve on the telephone, because that is setting the tone of even what, not only whether the patient's going to have a great experience with you and what their sense of value is for you, but whether they're going to schedule that appointment at all. So the telephone, body language. So what I mean by this is that there is an intentional way that we want to make sure we're interacting with our patients. I know that through COVID, we were so limited through PPE and everything else. I understand that there was some limitation in that face-to-face time. But listen, your bodies were still there. Your eyes were still showing. And so your voice was still present. We can do a great deal in terms of how a message is received through body language. Studies show that body language is one of the biggest ways people are perceiving a message. So, and receiving a message. So arms crossed, leaning back, being too casual, standing up, sitting down, having our back turned to people, looking away, the way we're frowning or smiling, or the way our eyes look. All of that makes a difference in how your patient feels like you're connecting with them or paying attention to them or listening to them, and how you're interacting with them. Another study from the healthcare realm that I wanted to share is this, that when we talk about body language, I want you to think about sitting down versus standing up. How many of you have been in a physician's office or even in your own dental practice where the dentist or the provider, when they start, they're standing over you? You're laying back, your patients are laying back in the chair in a completely vulnerable position, and more than likely a little uncomfortable and nervous, especially if they're a new patient, and we're standing over them. So this is an incredible study in hospitals that for 20 patients who physicians sat during the conversation and the consultation, the comments were overwhelmingly positive. So they split the patients like two groups. And in one group, the doctor sat with the patients, and in one group, the doctor stood, and they were with the patients for the exact same amount of time. So when the ones that sat had an overwhelmingly positive feedback, patients expressing how they appreciated how the doctor took the time to sit and listen. In contrast, the positive reviews for those that stood were much less and prompted more critical remarks, such as, "I didn't have time to ask the doctor any questions," or "he was in and out before I even knew what was going on." Interestingly, as this study continued, they found that the feedback was patients where the doctors were sitting sensed that the doctors were with them significantly longer than the doctors that stood. And they were actually with them the exact same amount of time. How about that for a study on body language? So if you feel like, I don't have time to have these conversations, I don't have time to partner with my patients and ask questions, you actually probably don't need as much time as you think if you position yourself intentionally for the best possible conversation and result. So 3 minutes standing versus 3 minutes sitting could be a whole different experience for your patients. So here are some examples with some of our clients that are showing you how using their body language and sitting with the patient, sitting up, eye to eye, knee to knee for those initial conversations, whether you're at the chair or you're in a consultation room. These are obviously pre-COVID, no masks, but you can see how that is an intentional connective way to start partnering with those patients. Such simple tweaks in our positioning and where and how we're having conversations, and what a difference that can make in your patient's perception and preparation for receiving whatever it is that you recommend. Here's a big one. This one I'm pretty positive could be a big game changer for some of you. Those of you that are not taking regular photographs, intraoral and digital photographs of your patient's mouth, befores and afters, to use to show them their own what's happening in their own mouths, but also to start creating an archive of before and afters of patients with permission to share those photographs of cases similar to other patients that are coming in. Here's a case very similar to yours, Mrs. Jones. As you can see, this patient was having the exact same issues you are having in their mouth. And here is what we were able to do for them and the result that they were very pleased with. Is this type of treatment that you'd like to receive? So the visual piece is so powerful. Studies show that we as a society, large majority, 65%, some people would say even upwards of 80% of society considers themselves visual learners. So my question for you is, are you taking photographs of all of your patients when they're in your practice? Are we pulling those photographs up at hygiene appointments? Are we showing them? Are we showing them befores and afters? Are we using what's happening in their mouth and showing them for themselves to support the diagnosed treatment that your doctors have diagnosed for those patients? Using them in consultations, using them chairside. This is the pivotal key tool for education, motivation, and activation into treatment. And it doesn't just have to be the doctors, clinical assistants, hygienists, especially. I want you getting comfortable with using photography to help your patients when they're with you. The best time to educate, motivate, and schedule patients into treatment is when they're face to face with us. And photography can make all the difference in the world. Now, here's one of my favorites, the verbal skills and active listening. I've talked about this already, but this is the game changer in terms of when you think about the patient practice partnership, it's how we communicate. It builds trust and understanding. It reduces anxiety or any kind of confusion. If you have cancellations and no-shows happening on a regular basis, this can help offset that when we are intentionally communicating in a different and more effective way. And it strengthens our efficiency overall. The more comfortable we get with the way we have conversations, the more it's really just going to flow. You're going to be comfortable. You're not going to be stumbling over things, trying to figure things out, asking everybody questions. You're going to know because you're going to be practiced, you're going to be prepared and very proactive in these conversations. So how do we partner with the patient? I love this quote by President Roosevelt. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Our dear friend, Dr. Mark Hyman, who lectures on a regular basis across the country, says it this way: when he, as a dentist, stopped telling people what they needed and started asking people what they wanted, everything changed. So how are we engaging, asking questions, and starting to gather information, those expectations that one of you shared earlier from our patients, so that we can start strong from the very beginning and incorporate their goals, their expectations into their experience and our treatment presentations. Doctors, I love when doctors ask these questions. If you're a team member that ultimately is leading patients through their new patient experiences, I've also had hygienists that for long-term patients, they start asking these questions about, have your goals changed for your mouth and for your health? Are there any other expectations or interests that you may have that we want to be aware of? Asking questions, getting comfortable with these types of questions. These are the questions my father asks when he is going through new patient experiences. What are your goals for your mouth, your teeth, and your smile? What are your expectations of me? Some doctors will ask, are there any timelines that we need to be aware of for your care? What led you to come to us in the first place? What led you to leave your last dentist? But in the end, what I want to know is, what are your goals? What are your expectations? May I have permission if I see anything as I'm evaluating your mouth? If I see anything of concern, may I have permission to show that to you and have a conversation about that? Asking lots of little questions, to get those little yeses all along the journey, so those patients feel in control of their own lives. Sometimes we fire hose them, or we tell, and overwhelm them. If they're not ready to hear it, let me tell you something. And would you agree? They're not going to hear it. And so we need to make sure they're open to hearing what we want to bring to the table, what we discover, what we'd like to recommend. Those kinds of questions can get you there. And please, oh, please, oh, please, if you're asking them their goals, document what they tell you so you can roll that into your conversations in the future. Mrs. Jones, when we first met, you told me that your goals were to get your mouth and your teeth to a state of health because you don't want to lose your teeth and you want to have a healthy smile for a lifetime. That was your top goal. Is that still the case? Well, based upon that goal and what I've discovered in my evaluation, I have some recommendations that I'd like to share with you to help get us on the path to that healthy, happy smile. And so being able to roll those goals into that conversation helps them see, wow, they were listening to me. Wow, this is going to be the solution that they're going to recommend based upon what I told the doctor I wanted, right? So permission-based case presentation. When you open the lines of communication or treatment, you may say what I just said. So your goals were this, and may I present to you some treatment? Or if you've been planning a large case and you have them returning for a consultation, you can thank them for coming back and what you're preparing for them. I'd like to present to you what I would consider the ideal treatment plan for what is happening in your mouth and what you're based on your goals and what we see is happening. I'd like to present to you what I would consider the ideal treatment plan. If it were me or a member of my family, and this is the kind of treatment that I would want for them. So I'd like to have permission to share my recommendations with you. In return, you have my permission to accept all of it, some of it now, some of it later, or none of it at all, because you're in control. But I would like to present to you what I would consider ideal, and we can go from there. Would that be okay with you? I mean, I don't know that I've heard anybody. This is what my father says. This is what we say in our beta practice at Jameson. And if we are asking permission to share what's ideal and we can go from there, you have permission to accept all of it, some of it now, some of it later. You're in control, but I'd like to share with you what I would consider the best way forward. This helps us partner for the best possible result. This is the diagnosis. This is what I recommend. Here are the advantages of proceeding with this care. Here are the disadvantages of not proceeding. So the benefits and the risks. And hygienists, when they're back in active treatment, they haven't moved forward with the recommended care. These are also the benefits and the risks, showing them the diagnosis again. Here's what's happening in your mouth. Here's how it's even regressed since the last time you were here. Doctor had recommended that we do this. Here are the advantages if you move forward. If you continue to not move forward, here are the risks should you not proceed. Asking for commitment and defining that financial responsibility. I don't know how many of you have a treatment coordinator on your team, but having a partner that takes on the financial responsibility frees the doctor up to do the clinical conversation and then be able to pass the baton to someone that is more practiced and more aware of what's possible and available in our practice to help patients move forward. That is a magical team in case presentation. A treatment coordinator that understands the clinical aspect and can answer those questions, but they're also very confident in quoting entire fees, confident in understanding all the various financial options you have available. They are very passionate and they believe in the work. They're good communicators, and they can take that conversation all the way to making those financial responsibilities, getting those in place, and scheduling that first appointment. So when you're presenting treatment in a partnership, we want to ask questions to make sure that this is indeed that we're meeting the mark on what our patients want or need. Do you see any reason, Mrs. Jones, why we shouldn't go ahead and schedule your first appointment now that we've answered all of your clinical questions about the care itself? Does this treatment plan work for you? Is this the type of care you would like to receive? This is when that photography and before and afters can really make a difference. Do you need more information, or have I told you enough to help you make your decision? These are some good questions that lead you to the next step. So this is the asking for commitment step and the 6 steps to case presentation that lead into making financial arrangements. But it's important that we comfortably and confidently ask questions. Remember, the little yeses all along the way, so that we can make room for questions or concerns that may be getting in the way of the patient saying yes. If a patient gets too overwhelmed and too emotional, they're going to get in fight or flight, and they're not going to be able to make the right decision at the time. So the more we can lead them through asking questions and giving them room to have dialogue with us, the more successful the process will be. Does this take time? Yes. So boy, that treatment coordinator becomes even more of an important role in your practice, because the doctor can move on once the clinical questions are answered. If the questions are all about, yeah, doc, but how am I going to pay for this? That gives the doctor the chance to exit, the financial coordinator, the treatment coordinator to sit and take the time to answer those questions and explore the variety of options that you have. Now, Customer service is a massive game changer. If any of you are looking to get off of PPOs, or perhaps some of you are already fee for service and you know the value of this, if you're going to be asking for a patient to invest in their care in that way, we've got to be delivering something extraordinary and working on it all the time. I need to know that you care about me as a patient. I need to feel like you were prepared for me and that I'm important to you, and I want to feel heard, and I want to feel safe, and I want to feel like I'm getting extraordinary care. And that's where customer service comes into play. Mr. Schultze of the Ritz-Carlton says the people you serve want three main things. They want a service with no defects. So what does that mean for you? That means not just the clinical care itself. Yes, that needs to be good too. But they want the experience to not be glitchy. So if you walk through your practice, is the facility dirty? If you were to role play and practice being the patient through your practice, are our verbal skills on point? Are your patient check-ins and checkouts really smooth and elevated? Do we have all the information that we need documented so we're not asking the same questions of the patients over and over again? But we're all aware of why they're there, and we're all aware of what we're there to do for them and taking care of them in an elevated way. They want timeliness. So if you're running behind schedule, you're really breaking those pillars with every single late appointment. Time is becoming the new money. Time is one of the three top obstacles of patients getting care in the first place. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to have smooth processes in place, and that we're scheduling our appointments for the appropriate amount of time and honoring those time frames, because not just for the patient that's in that appointment, but for the patient that's walking in the practice and waiting for their appointment coming up next. They want the person that they're dealing with to be nice to them. Wow, I can't believe they even have to say that. They want you to be nice to them. On the worst of days, we have to gather up within us that this may be the 150,000th patient you've seen in your career, but for that patient, it may be the first time, it may be their first interaction with you. And they may be nervous, or they may be doubtful, or they may have had the worst dental experience before, or they may be ashamed. Whatever it may be, we need to bring our best and bring kindness and bring that elevated care to serve those patients in a different way. Remember this, the communication with your patients, the power of that, and how you're building trust, value, need, understanding, and loyalty. So I want you to think about this. I want you to pick one. You may be doing all these things really, really well. And for that, I want to pat you on the back. But if one of these could be tweaked just a little bit, that can make the biggest difference in the connectivity you have with your patients, of them seeing the trust, the need, the urgency, the value of being active in your practice, of saying yes to that treatment that they know they need, but boy, oh boy, do they not want to do it. For them to refer their friends and family to you. If you want to grow your practice, the best way to do it is by referrals. You know that. So working on that emotional intelligence, your awareness, understanding people. How could I approach Mrs. Jones differently? Boy, when she was in today, she really shut off. What could I have done differently, and how can I improve and learn a lesson and be better next time? And working as a team in your team meetings on role playing and practicing those verbal skills, practicing those patient interaction conversations that you seem to be stumbling through every single time. That's how you're going to get better, is practicing those scenarios together so that when you're in the real life moments, it's smooth as can be. Working on your telephone technique, call each other, practice. Business team, be open and be coachable. Because if you can be coached by your team or by an outside resource like us, we can help you be better and be more effective and be more impactful. And you know what? When you have better calls more consistently, doesn't that ultimately lead to you having a better day? When I have 3, 4, 5, 6 great calls, man, I would take those days every single day versus a day where I have a few that are like, oh, good, that was terrible. So working on your telephone, it is the starting point. It is setting the standard of expectation that your patients are going to have with their experience all the way through. Remember this: don't take your existing patients for granted. Yes, those new patients are incredibly important, but the moment we start taking our existing patients for granted and we're not giving them an A+ experience, we're giving them maybe a C, guess what? They have the power of choice too. They can choose to move on and go elsewhere, and we don't want that. Add door opening opportunities. Perhaps it's that smile evaluation, or perhaps it's working on initial interview questions. What feels right to you? What would be the most helpful in really building a bridge as quickly as possible with your patients so that we can start having more intentional conversations? Use your cameras and photos. Please, please start making an intentional effort to take those with every patient in your chair. Just make it a part of your habit. It's going to take a while. Get some kind of cue that reminds you, take the picture. Take the picture. Hygienists, in that first 20 minutes when you're gathering information, take the photos, pull them up for your doctors for the evaluations when they come in. Having those photographs, I'm telling you, is going to make all the difference in the world. When you ask those intraoral camera companies, what does consistent use of photography in patient conversations, what do you see that doing to case acceptance? Conservatively, they'll tell you it'll increase your case acceptance by 10%. I think that's a conservative amount. Something I don't have in here also are your financial options. Financial companies such as Care Credit, having in-office membership plans, those are tools that can really help your patients find an avenue to yes. Are you maximizing patient financing? Are you maximizing an in-house membership plan? Your Henry Schein representatives have access to all of these tools and to people that can help you incorporate those or maximize them more. If you have these tools already in your practice and you're not even using them, wow, what a missed opportunity. There's more than likely 10% of your diagnosed patients that are looking for a resource like Care Credit to move forward with that care, but we're not making it an option for them. We're not showing them what's available to them. So maximizing the tools that you have, adjusting your body language and positioning in conversations for a better, more connective result. Remember the sitting, standing study. Continuously work on your verbal skills and listening skills. I know I've really hammered this one home, but in my opinion, I will support my dad in his opinion that working on the mastery of verbal skills makes all the difference. All those examples that I shared to you roll off my tongue so easily now because you know why? I practice them and I say them all the time. At this point, they come naturally to me and I can say them 2,700 different ways because it's just part of my vocabulary now. It may sound awkward and weird and elevated in like a really weird way to you, but you know what? Chick-fil-A says my pleasure, and that's a pretty elevated verbal skill. Wouldn't you agree? So working on your verbal skills, practicing as a team, even though that's awkward to role play as a team, that's going to be the differentiator for you. Those that practice, when they're put in play, when they're put on the field, they're the ones that end up being superstars. And finally, from my father, Dr. John Jameson himself, offer the best dentistry possible. Make financing comfortable and affordable, and get out of the way and let the patient have a chance to say yes to the very best. That is what I believe makes all the difference in the world. So I want to invite you, if you haven't already been on a presentation with me before, I want to invite you to download a complimentary ebook called Move the Needle that I created. You can scan, just open up your camera on your phone and scan this QR code right now, or go to the landing page that's listed in the bottom. And you can download a complimentary ebook that helps you when you think about, okay, this all sounds good, but how do I implement? How do I get my team on board? How do we start to make a change in the practice? Well, this is going to give you some great tools, from action planning tools to how to brainstorm and problem solve, and some of the tools that you may need to get you from the realization that you picked one of those items that you want to work on, now how to apply it into your practice. So download the Move the Needle complimentary ebook. It would be my pleasure for you to download that and hopefully give you a guide of how to move forward with something that that you identified as a need for you tonight. I also want to invite you to visit grow.jmsn.com/Henry-Schein-dental. And for the Henry Schein participants, we would like to present to you our online learning platform that has entire pathways on case presentation and the patient experience, including telephone technique, including all of those verbal skills. So visit this website, and on behalf of Jameson in our partnership with Henry Schein, we'd love for you to learn more and use this tool either in the personal plan or on the team plans. And then finally, if you would like to reach out and have a conversation directly with me about your practice and how Jameson can be a resource for you, it would be my pleasure to have that conversation with you. You are welcome to email me in my email that I shared with you earlier, or contact us through any of these avenues, and my team will make sure that you and I get connected for a discovery call. It would be my pleasure to speak with you and explore how you can help your practice improve and get closer and closer to your ideal practice vision. And with that, Adam, I'll pass it over to you for any questions that may have popped up in the presentation.
Well, fortunate for you, I am not seeing any questions.
Hey, I don't know if that's good or bad, people. I don't know.
Getting off a little easy tonight.
Well, I do hope that everyone that is on that, if you didn't grab my email, go back and it's I think I shared it to everyone. It's cweber@jmsn.com. Reach out to me directly. I feel pretty invested in the Henry Schein webinar series now. I think this is my 4th or 5th presentation, Adam. So
yeah, you're a 5, Peter.
I'm a 5, Peter. So I feel like you all are my people now, and I want you to be successful. So if we didn't touch on something that is really perhaps the area where you're stuck in your patient experience, reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Carrie. Again, if anyone has additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Carrie, or you can email us at webinars@henryschein.com, and we'll route your inquiry accordingly. If anyone's interested in future Henry Schein webinars, please give a visit to henryscheindental.com/webinars for our upcoming schedule. As a thank you for attending, everyone will receive this recording via email sometime in the next week, so keep a lookout for that. Thanks for joining us, and have a great night.